In this video, we're going to cover supplements that can enhance your results you get from your training sessions. On page 126 of the playbook, you can see there's space to write down the 5 personal choices I'll be sharing with you, and there's also space for you to write your own supplements, and Jamie will demonstrate how you can use the observation log. It's important to talk about this because there's just so much information out there about supplements, especially because of how much skill people have with marketing and advertising. There will always be a person telling you to take some supplements so you can get a particular result. And I want to be very clear before sharing my 5 choices. It's necessary to get your nutrition and your training dialed in before you start turning to a bunch of supplements. Because at the end of the day, supplements are simply things that help and support. You should never be relying on supplements. Supplements enhance your results. Supplements are not the foundation of gains. The foundation of your gains is your nutrition and your training. Everything else is a cherry on top. I also want to point out that we aren't discussing proprietary blends or formulas that have been trademarked by just one company with a monopoly on a product. We're discussing widely available categories of supplements that have been around for decades. Supplements that have been studied and researched. Supplements that do not require you to buy into a particular subscription with a particular company. And when you choose supplements, you want to look for something that confirms it's been tested by a third party. One example of this is called informed choice. And they randomly select batches of supplements to make sure they are what they say they are and that there is no banned substances. The logo that goes on these products that have passed looks like this. And you can find out more on their website. So if you're going to use supplements, look for something that signifies that it's been third-party tested. So with that being said, let me share my 5 personal choices. First, I've always just taken amino acids. You might hear this referred to as BCAA, which stands for branched chain amino acids. These are the building blocks of protein. So you can think of them as the ingredients your body uses to make protein, which helps you build and protect muscle mass. Probably since I was in my 20s, I've been taking one brand of aminos or another, usually twice a day. I've never stuck to just one product. I've enjoyed a brand called Optimum Nutrition, but this also includes some caffeine from green tea. And there are times that I don't want to have caffeine. So I've also used a brand called Extend. And I usually have a dose of aminos in the morning. I drink them with ice just from my years of athletics. I like having a cold drink to get me going in the morning. And then again, when I'm headed into a training session, I mix up a second dose of aminos. The second supplement that I have used for years is protein powder. Again, I've tried dozens of varieties out of the probably thousands of options that there are out there. Protein powder is something that people end up having a very strong opinion about. It's important to know that you can get everything from single ingredient, low calorie options like brown rice protein powder, all the way up to elaborate high calorie options that come in all kinds of flavors like birthday cake or matcha green tea. You can find vegan protein, vegetarian protein, and animal-based protein. I even remember when there was grasshopper protein. I'm sure it's probably still out there. If you've ever stood in the grocery store looking at the shelves of salad dressing, protein powder is basically the same way. I say that because I'm sure you can find a protein powder that meets your unique preferences. Now, it's important to keep an eye on how much protein powder you're consuming because you want to continue prioritizing whole foods. In phase 2 of the FIT system, nourishment navigation, skill number 1, we talk about how you calculate the safe percentage of how much your daily protein intake can come from protein powder. You can review that number in your sweet spot numbers on page 65. Personally, for me recently, I've been doing 2 servings per day. I usually make a smoothie for lunch out of the brand called Orgain, and I use the vanilla flavor because I can turn it into so many different tastes. And if I want to make it have a great chocolate flavor with a dose of fiber, it's easy to do that by just adding a tablespoon of cocoa powder. Or my personal favorite is adding some frozen berries with a banana. And then after I train, I just quickly mix up a shake with the brand called Isopure, creamy vanilla. And depending on the day's schedule, I might be eating that 30 minutes or an hour before dinner. So I don't do anything elaborate with this protein shake because I'm starting to cook my fun meal. So that one is just about refueling and allowing my body to start recovering after a complete workout. The third supplement I take is creatine monohydrate, or creatine for short. And basically, its function in the body is to help your muscles produce energy, especially the energy that you need for quick, explosive moves, including brain activity. Creatine has been studied for decades, so there's so much research showing that creatine improves short-term memory, reduces mental fatigue, enhances problem solving and reasoning skills, as well as preserves muscle mass by stopping muscles from breaking down. Another great benefit of it is that it's very affordable and widely available. In my personal experience, I've noticed that it's important to make sure that you get enough water for your body because creatine will pull water into into your muscles. And if you're generally dehydrated and not drinking enough, you can experience unnecessary and totally avoidable cramping. You can see how much water you should be drinking by reviewing page 104 of the playbook. My daily dose of creatine is about 3 to 5 grams, and I'll put about half of that into my lunch smoothie, and then the other half into my water bottle for what I drink as I'm arriving at the gym. Make sure to only put creatine in cooler drinks because high temperatures will compromise its effects. The fourth supplement I take is omega-3 fatty acids. This is basically an oil or a fat that has powerful anti-inflammatory properties. It supports recovery by reducing muscle soreness and speeds up the restoration of muscle fibers that get micro tears during strength training. It also improves both cardiovascular and heart health as well as joint health, which means that it's more comfortable to exercise because blood pressure is lowered and more oxygen and nutrients are delivered to the muscles. The brand I've been using recently is Pure Alaska Omega, and it's cold pressed and wild caught. I take 3 capsules with breakfast. The fifth supplement isn't really supplement per se. Basically, I limit my caffeine intake to a particular window. I don't take in caffeine after 3 p.m. at the absolute latest, and that's because it optimizes my sleep. And when we discussed recovery back on page 105 and 106, we covered how important sleep is. And I limit my caffeine so that it's not interfering with my sleep benefits timeline or my bedtime sleep cues. And of course, you're welcome to explore the combination of supplements that you enjoy, and you can list the ones that you want to try or are trying here on page 126. The last thing I do want to note is to remind you to customize the supplements that you're taking and keep track of your experience with them on an observation log. This is a place where you can write down the brand, dose, and date when you tried certain supplements and recorded your experience.
So for example, supplements that I use occasionally to improve my sleep are ashwagandha or magnesium. Just very quickly about whether or not these are safe during pregnancy, ashwagandha is generally not considered safe, but magnesium is. If you're not familiar with it, ashwagandha is an herb that can be turned into capsules, powder, or a liquid tincture, and it helps lower elevated cortisol levels and then keep them inside of a healthy range. It also supports adrenal glands and reduces adrenal fatigue. Again, it's been researched and shown to improve sleep quality and reduce insomnia, as well as lower cortisol levels overall. So just as an example of how you can fill out the observation log, in the box labeled supplement, I would write down ashwagandha, and under brand, I would write down Co-op tincture because it's not a national brand. I just got it at my local health food store. Under dose, I would write that I took 15 drops, which is about half a milliliter. This is actually half the recommended dose on the label. I'd also write the date I started trying it, and then in the column marked what I observed, I would write down what I noticed. So for example, I didn't wake up between 2 and 3 a.m., which was great. It definitely improved my quality of sleep and helped me get back on track after a period of interrupted sleep patterns. But at the same time, it's not a magic cure for making me feel tired or actually falling asleep. I still need to follow all of my bedtime sleep cues like I showed you on page 106, including reading fiction for about 10 minutes in order to get my mind to relax. So I made a note about that here, and this is something I'm working on as my sleep continues to get better.
Okay, friends, so that's it. You've just gotten our introduction to supplements, what we take, and how you can keep track of what you're doing for yourself. The main thing I want to leave you with as we conclude this presentation is that supplements are just an extra. That's literally what the name supplements means. You never want to get to the point where you're dependent on supplements. So in my opinion, it's good for you to take breaks with whatever your supplements are. You should never be leaning on them as the foundation of your gains. The vast majority of your results will come from the consistency and dedication that you bring to your nutrition and your training sessions every day. Not to mention your attitude that supports those gains as well. And when you get that dialed in, supplements can enhance your results.